Hi guys, in today's episode of Taylor Talks Trades, we've got Managing Director David McIntyre of McIntyre Masonry. He's telling us how he's built one of Scotland's leading commercial stonemasonry companies and also about the awesome career pathway if you get into the stonemasonry industry. Really hope you enjoy it. Thanks for coming on, David. I'll start where I always start. How did you get into the trade?
My dad was a stonemason. He had his own company. And weekends, holidays, things like that, his yard was at the house as well. So if we were back early for school and it was a good day and there was stuff to be done, loading vans, things. So I've kind of always been around it, but I was never really that interested until later years.
And so how did that develop then? Did you do an apprenticeship then with the stonemasonry, or did you pick it up off of your dad, or how?
Well, to start with, I went and worked on motorbikes and did an apprenticeship with Kawasaki. I was factory trained with them. It was great, and it was just living the dream really, playing with motorbikes. And then eventually, kind of moved on to some different things. And my dad was at me, my brother was also at me, and I ended up doing another apprenticeship as a mature student, and that's how I got into it. But when I was younger, it's not really something I was that interested in. But as I got older, that there's certain things. I was probably mid-20s when I done my stonemason apprenticeship, and at the time, it was good. Mm-hmm. Good.
Aye. So it was almost like you were destined for it in a way, because you were trying to do the motorbikes, and did you not see you were driving lorries as well, and you enjoyed that?
There was things I always wanted to do. I wanted to work on bikes, so I went and done that. I always wanted to drive lorries. I never done it for very long, but I went and done the licence and stuff, and went and drove lorries for a year, I think. And then I ended up full-time in the stonemasonry after that.
Mm-hmm. And then how's the transition go for then? Like, so you're in the trade now, and then how did McIntyre Masonry come about? And we see obviously what the company's doing now, and got a good name for itself and everything, but what was the early days of that getting off the ground?
Well, I think, see, with my mum, I think my mum and dad were both self-employed. Mum's got shops, and she's had them since I was young, and my dad's been doing his stonemasonry. So I was kind of always looking to have my own business, and I take it that's why. I'm not it's not really something that I can tell you why it is that I wanted to do that, but when I started taking an interest in the stonemasonry, I started looking at all the different companies, mostly in Edinburgh, and there's a couple of companies that kind of caught my eye, and I thought, I think that looks quite good. So that's the kind of road that I wanted to go down. So I started up on my own, and with a goal to get to that sort of position. And so that's basically how I got started.
And the earlier days then, were you sort of right hands-on on the tools and everything there? I know you've probably got a wee bit more hands-off role now.
Well, when I worked with my dad, I was I basically went straight into that job, and after 2 weeks I was running one of the jobs for him. And I was trying to go to college, and it was quite difficult. And then when I started up on my own, I was on the tools, but not for very long. It quickly got to the stage where I remember the day I was in Bells Hill, and we were building granite planters. So I was working down one side, putting the panels on. It was like a cladding, putting the fixings in, lining it through and things. And one of the other, a stonemason that worked when we was on the other side. So we got to a certain stage of the day, and I'd put like 3 panels on, and he was on 8 or 9, and I'd just been on the phone all morning trying to sort stuff out, and then I realised I'd done a wee bit wrong, and I just thought, you've either got to do one thing, I'd quite like doing one thing to 100% of my ability instead of trying to spread it over. You need to do it to start with, but I think as soon as I got the opportunity, I was off the tools and concentrating on the office side.
So almost like you had a mind for the business then, like kind of for that kind of younger age as well, and just it's like it's as if you sort of knew that you were going to be able to do something different. That maybe, like, I know sort of like my dad, your dad, they're all probably a wee bit more old school than probably what we've been, but you must have just seen a different vision of how a company should be run, and obviously to get it to the point it is now.
Well, I seen my brother was doing quite a bit at the time as well, with starting up his company and stuff. So I've seen a bit of what he's doing, a bit of what my dad's doing, a bit of what my mum's doing, and a bit of what other people's doing, and just kind of doing it the way I wanted from that.
Yeah. And what would your advice be then to anybody that's maybe looking to get into the trade?
An apprentice.
And like somebody looking to come into it, maybe in a different, and like maybe bike mechanic than now, and maybe thinking about getting into the stonemasonry. Would you advise it?
What I would say, well, I would say try and pick the right thing to start with, and because obviously experience and time and goes in your favour in the long run. I've probably had to work quite hard at it, because I was 10 years later at it than some of the young guys who go in at 16. I was the best part of 10 years late at it. But although I was late at the apprenticeship, I had the experience with working with my dad and the guys that worked with him before. I would say, you've got to have a good think about what you want to do when you're younger. Like the trades kind of went out of fashion, I think, and it's back in fashion. The guys are making good money, getting looked after. It used to be stonemason in particular could be quite sort of difficult. It's quite heavy, dusty, all these things. But the health and safeties should be at a level now where a lot of the risks are minimised and eliminated. So I think it's a good trade to get into. You've got to, you've got to be committed, and it's much the same as like the roofing, isn't it? You're up and you're quite exposed.
It's quite hard. That's quite a hard job. But I think, like, if you look at like your business and my business and some of the other businesses that we've had on, it's there's a career to be carved out of it. There is a like, both of us ourselves, like we've managed to get ourselves off the tools as such, and you're running a business. It's maybe not what we maybe thought it would have been when we first got into it, but it just shows if you get in and you have the hard working mentality initially and you learn the trade and you understand. I think when you start to pick up the wee snippets of how to run a business and make it better, and obviously you've kind of honed them skills as you've went, and just always tried to make it a wee bit better as you've went, that gets you the business side as well.
So at the minute I think we've got four apprentices, and last year, so we're scaling on to these bigger jobs. We're trying to build up our supervision, our management, try to put different systems in place. So we're needing stonemasons, we're also needing supervisors. And so I sent an email out to all the guys last year, and does anybody fancy being a supervisor? And we had 5 start this training. So we put training days together, come in every fortnight, done a couple of courses, done their triple STS, try to start them on small jobs, get the paperwork together and get them used to working with that, and then scale it up a bit. And so there is like, when you start in the trades now, there's options. There is like, you can start in, you can get to learn your trade, you can go to a supervisor, you can go to contracts management for there. There's
quite a career pathway then. It's not so much just I think it probably would be the case that a lot of people's like, I'm not very academic, so I'll just get a trade. And that's probably how I fell into the trade, if I'm honest. But I think now it's totally different for that, because how can you say people that's running sort of, £1 million plus businesses and whatnot, like, there must be some level of academic going on up there if and I think it's just maybe sometimes starting is probably like just diving in and getting a trade, then you can always adapt later on. I think it's probably a good thing to get in and then learn all the different wee bits, like you said.
Yeah, and that, like the way that money's going now, the wages, and like for stonemasons, I'm talking about, that's all we've only got stonemasons. The wages are shooting up in the last few years, and if you look at, like, we've been tendering a lot of work at the start of this year, and the work that we've tendered, I'm not sure that there's enough stonemasons in the country to do the work, never mind like, we're not obviously we're not got to think we're going to win all that work, but somebody's got to do the work, whether it's us or whoever, and the numbers are declining every year, really. So getting into stonemasonry at the minute could be very lucrative in the future.
And that somebody getting in now could be the next version of you, I guess, in the years to come. Do you know, like if they get in,
they make more money just being on the tools. But I think it's a good time to get in. Good time because it's cleaner, the environment's better, and the money's getting better, and it's only going to get better. It's not going to get any worse in the next sort of 30, 40 years.
There's a lot of focus on the trades now, isn't there? Around like the culture and how people's looked after and the welfare, the facilities. Like everything's just getting better, like year on year. It seems to be a lot of like it's no as probably as hard as it once was. Like I'm not going back maybe as far as you, but like when I first started, it was a lot harder than what it is now. But by no means would have been as hard as what probably it was for you, and then like the generations even before us, it's probably got easier as it's went on.
Aye. Well, we were probably about the same time, really, because I was at somewhere else first when aye. So it was probably, I'd done the bikes for 10 years and then dropped into it. But it's getting. I think it's getting better. It's been a couple of rough patches, but I think it's getting to the stage now where it needs to get better. So as the government, there's a focus
on it.
Aye. I've got a couple of things going on with CITB and people like that to try and like just, I've probably not been very happy at the uptake of apprentices in the last few years. I've had a couple of meetings with them, and everybody's seemed to be trying to increase the numbers and whatever.
There does seem to be a good focus around that and trying to, I guess, get people into the trade and encourage it, and then once they're in, like almost give them a good environment. And I think you touched on it there, like a career path. So see if like somebody was to come in as an apprentice with McIntyre Masonry, say this year, like over the space of 10 years, like where could that actually take them? Like,
well, I've not got any, like age is not really a factor for me. So somebody coming in, like what my assistant contracts manager just now was an apprentice. They could come in, get a bit of experience, if they show the right qualities, and the right qualities might be that they want to learn. No, the right qualities, I'm not talking about being able to do the supervisor job, but just willing to learn and get into that. They could do it quite quick. They could be supervising, and then whatever roles come up after that. The company's always kind of evolving and growing, so these sort of more management roles are coming up more often.
It's becoming a bit more popular as well. That's what I was finding. Is there anybody that could come into McIntyre and potentially like come in at like a QS sort of level, like if they were no in the trade as such, but wanted to go down the more sort of that side of it? Is there a pathway in that side?
Well, at the moment, I've got one quantity surveyor, and that's what we'll be staying at just now. So, McIntyre Masonry in particular, no really an opening for a quantity surveyor. But in the future, maybe 3, 4, 5 years time, we'll probably be looking to take on somebody to like a junior quantity surveyor.
There's loads of these things going on now, like even like work placements and stuff, where like somebody could maybe come in and like maybe ask somebody for a school or a college or whatever and come in and maybe just spend the week with your QS, or I don't know, with your contracts manager or something, and just see like this is where it could actually go. Because sometimes at the beginning, when it would probably be more popular to probably bring like maybe kids in and have them cutting a bit of stone or something, but they might be like, well, I did like that, but where could it go? So like that's kind of things we've been thinking about as well, is trying to show them like the management side and the leadership and sort of that stuff. And I think things are evolving a wee bit into that a wee bit.
I find it difficult roles to fill, if I'm honest with you. The serious supervisor roles, that kind of thing. I think it's difficult.
I think it's normally because like my thinking is like a lot of the way that we've grew our company is like it's tradesmen sort of coming off the tools and then having to learn a whole new world of skills. Whereas like there's probably the other side of that where there's like people who's maybe learning the skills and then trying to come into the trade and do it that way. And there's like arguments on both sides that...
I've been thinking quite a lot about that recently, and you get the best stonemasons, and they can be absolutely fantastic, but that doesn't mean to say like doing a supervisor role's a different job, you know, and they've got to learn these new skill sets to suit that job, you know. But somebody coming in to do that specific job and learning getting some experience with stonemasonry, there's different ways to fill these positions, and that's what we've been looking at lately to see what direction we've got to go down next.
No, that's good. It's good that you're providing sort of like a pathway there, and you're keeping it up. Is there be any new apprentices this year, or are you done your intake? Or?
No, the college is lagging behind a bit. We will. So the last 2 apprentices have came from labourers. So there's 2 guys. One guy came in a few years back, and he was actually he worked for a scaffolding company, and he was a labourer with us. And this guy can work. You know, he's an absolute crafter. He's at his work every day. Never any problems with him. Polite. Just a good guy. And I was watching him one day, and he was pointing, and I thought, and he was watching like it. See, when I first started my apprenticeship, I looked at the guys that my dad had working, and I said, right, this guy, I think he's probably the best guy here, so I'm going to go and work with him. But a lot of the guys will try and work with the people who they're quite pally with or different things, but this guy was working with the guys that knew what they were doing. He was trying to learn, and I thought, I wonder if he would want to do an adult apprenticeship. So I asked him. He was over the moon. He's on his 2nd year now, and then
that's brilliant.
The next guy was one of his friends, and he was kind of similar, to be honest. He came in, was really hard working, and we approached him and asked him, and he's on his 1st year now. So the 2 of them's doing well.
So you're kind of actually like just seeing the potential in people and then giving them probably a wee bit of belief, because sometimes maybe labourers just think, right, I'm a labourer, that's all it's ever going to be, and sometimes it takes for somebody like yourself to say, there is a bit more out there if you want to learn, and it's just giving them that platform.
Well, I never really had anybody on my side with that decision, because the 2 of them, probably the 2 of them's the best labourers we've had. So I had other people saying to me, oh, that's not maybe the best idea. These are the really good labourers here, and we're going to make them apprentices. And I said, look, you can't take a chance away from somebody. If they're showing, if they're coming out and they've got the dedication, everything, what they're doing, and they're trying to learn, that's what we need to give them a chance, don't we? So we did, and I'm pretty sure it'll work out well for the both of us in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And I always find that's the best way to get apprentices. Get them in, get them labouring for a wee while. So if somebody wants an apprenticeship this August, so we'll actually be starting to look pretty soon for our next apprentice. They need to come in, do a bit of labouring, go and get their CSCS card and a wee bit of training, and get out on the site and just see if it's for them.
That's kind of what I done as well. It was like I basically, when I got offered the roofing job it was at the time, I'd say, look, I really, really want an apprenticeship, and I couldn't get one at the time. It was between a brickie's job or a roofer's job, but my boss, who ended up being my boss at the roofing company at the time, he said, if you prove yourself and you do, like, you come in this year and you really prove yourself and you show that you can go through the winter and you'll still be interested and keen and working hard, says I'll send you to college next year. And that just gave me an opportunity, and I thought I could have went and made more money originally at the bricklaying, because it was more money like in my hand at that time. But I thought if I really apply myself properly, I'll probably get a trade out of it, a proper trade out of it, and qualifications, and that's what I done. I just applied myself, and I do think that is a big advantage, probably for both parties, even though it means it's maybe going to take the apprentice a wee bit longer to get qualified. But it means that they've been familiarised with it, and they've got the opportunity to say, this maybe isn't for me. I know, like, certainly we like to let the guys see a winter first a wee bit, because if you start at college in August, and then like you maybe didn't quite see the winter as much, you're kind of away 2 weeks at a time or whatnot. It's like when they first maybe experience that winter and having to work out in the cold every day and the wet and the wild,
the
it can be
dark,
difficult.
driving there in the dark, driving home in the dark, the rain battering the window. When you made a job in Perth and the guys were going up in the minibus and the rain's battering the minibus on the way up, it takes a certain kind of person to get up there with a motivation to go out and do the job.
It does.
We've had 2 apprentices started that never finished.
Mm-hmm.
And the 2 of them was guys that we've tried different methods. Like we had interviews, so we interviewed a whole load of guys who I don't think we've ever had a girl for it. It's always been young lads that have been coming in, and then we've had the ones that came for labourers. We've had apprentices that we've adopted for other companies that for whatever reason. And the kind of best method is getting them in to start with. That's the one. Getting them at least 6 months labouring. And I always believe, like a stonemason apprentice should know how to do everything. They should know how to sweep up. They should know how to mix mortar. They should know how to clean the tradesman's tools after he's fit. Like an apprentice, so
that's the values of the apprenticeship, isn't that?
Aye. So if they do that, they start with labouring. For me, they can get off to a quicker start in the apprenticeship. If they start the first day of their 4-year apprenticeship and they've not done any of these things, that's what they're doing. That's what. So when I always think that if this guy is going to give instruction to this labourer to clean up after him and all the rest of it, or whatever, he's got to be able to have done that himself to appreciate what he's asking somebody else to do. Does that make sense?
Aye, definitely makes sense. Aye.
So, like my first apprenticeship, kind of made coffee, made tea, swept up. You just clean the toilets. You
do whatever it is to. Like I always used to have a wee benchmark, and I think like one of our other guests that we had on touched on it as well. It was like if the tradesman if you're the apprentice and the tradesman that you're working with are requesting to their employer to say, I want to take David or I want to take Jamie, then you know you're doing something right, because the tradesman wants you there, and that's probably because you're willing to do whatever it takes to keep them happy and make sure that their job's moving along and making it easier for them. And then in return, it's almost as if they go, well, you've saved us a wee bit of time because you've already cleaned the van out, or you've cleaned this up, or you've mixed the stuff. Then they're like, I'll show you this. And I think another big one's like getting the tools, and I think we probably need to get a bit better at that at Taylor's as well, but like maybe giving the apprentices, like there's a starter kind of toolkit as such, because if you've got the tools then and you can show that keenness and that hard working, then it's almost like if you've got the stuff, then the tradesman will kind of probably take a liking to you and say, look, I'll show you this, or I'll give you a wee bit of learning.
It's interesting. I've been thinking about that recently as well, and like I started off life as a mechanic, and like, in fact, to this day, I've still got the Snap-on man comes and sees me weekly, and I pay him money and get something else for it. And a toolbox and a mechanic's toolbox can be thousands. Yeah. A stonemason's pretty decent toolkit is a bit less than that, quite a bit less than that. I think that so I'm quite happy to buy their tools and they pay the money back. Because then I think they've just got a bit better appreciation for the tools.
We do that as well, actually. That's a really good.
Some of them
we implemented that.
Really good with them. And other ones, you see, you'll give them a new chisel and then you'll see it lying on the scaffold 2 weeks later.
And it's if you're maybe just giving them it, they didn't see the value sometimes. I understand that. We kind of implemented that as well for things like still saws and nail guns. We provide all of that and make sure it's all maintained and try to keep it in good working order as we can. But the sort of smaller hand tools, and then our guys usually have like a toolkit, like say a Makita or a DeWalt or something like that, that's got all the wee drills and stuff. So if it's something like that and it's quite a big spend, it might be in it in kind of 600, 700, 800 quid, depending on the kit that they buy. So we'll buy that for them through the company, and then then we can just take it off them weekly, and it's quite good. It allows them to have the right tools for the job as well. It's almost a kind of in between.
Got to help them a bit, and just come and go a bit whenever.
Definitely.
Different ones are different as well. We've had one guys was our apprentice. He's actually working somewhere else now, but keep in touch with him. But he's just mad on buying tools.
Aye.
He's got
Someone's
a van
got a real
full.
passion for
Aye.
it.
Every other money makes buy something else.
You usually find the guys that do that, they end up with quite good quality because they've got the right tools for the stuff as well. Sometimes like our apprentices will maybe say, one of our flat roofing apprentices, Ben, he's doing the torch on felt, and he'd asked for like a detailing gun, and we were like, oh, we could buy that for you and we'll keep it within the company and we'll just rent it out to you, but pretty much more or less be his unless he leaves or whatever. But it's like he's coming to us with the solutions to make the job more quality. So you appreciate that, and you didn't mind actually investing back into that because it helps the quality of the job, and it's helping them as well.
We had a guy, basically like all the grinders and stuff, they get shared around everybody with it and the blades and stuff, and he was always unhappy because, I think you actually know this guy, he's always unhappy because people weren't really looking after it like him. So we said, right, there you go, there's the 2 grinders, there's your blades, nobody else uses them apart from you. He was happy, and the blades lasted longer. There's always it suits us as well then, suits him. There's certain guys there's certain people that you work with to get the best.
We done things like that, like just like numbering the still saws or numbering the nail guns, and they kind of sign them in and out, and then you probably try it. You want them to get used to using the same stuff, and then just actually looking after it, and they almost like it's tradesmen are quite funny that way, where we almost get a wee bit of a bond to a tool, and it's like that's kind of mine, and then you see somebody else who's got it that's on another scaffold or something, and you're fuming. And what about like sort of for a business owner's point of view then, what would your kind of advice maybe be on, like if somebody's in the trade now and they're thinking about not necessarily stonemasonry because you want to keep on to them, but anybody in the trade that's looking to maybe make that step into like having their own business? Like
I see a lot of the guys, like I see guys that's worked with us before and really good at their job, and they've went and started on their own. The things they get a bit bothered with certain things, and it's probably the same stuff I got bothered with, and like there's all different coaching. I got a bit of coaching when I started. There's things like that available, but the same as everything else. You know, it's the same as if you go to get a roofer or you go to get a stonemason. There's good ones and not so good ones in it. And I think if anybody's starting themselves, they should look for a bit of advice. So if one of my guys wanted to start themselves, one of them starting right now actually for me yesterday, I've not said to him, but I'll get a better chat with him, and he's welcome anytime. So he can come in if he's got any problems. I'll talk him through everything that I can help him with. And a wee bit of business coaching, having a sort of idea of where you want to go is quite helpful. And then one of the really important things is knowing how much it costs you to do the work that you're doing. You know, a lot of people into the sort of some of these guys are really good at their job, and that's what they've been used to doing the job well, standing back, being proud of their work. But all of a sudden they've got bills coming in every month that they're responsible for now. So as well as doing that work, you've got to financially, you've got to look after your finances and your cash flows, and they come a wee bit later. But when you first get started, I think it's really important. Like when I first started, I was quite eager to get work sometimes. So if you've not got any money in your bank, you go out and do a job and you get paid £100 and you come back, you've got £100. But if you're working with accounts and you're working for a bit and then getting instalments, it's sometimes quite easy to lose track of what's actually making money and what's not. So I think once you get a grasp of that, that's when you can start developing your company. You know, when you start making a bit of money, you can start employing the right people. You can like you touched on something earlier about not being academical. Sometimes that's why people get into trades. So once you start making a bit of money, you can plug that gap with somebody that
yourself a bit.
or even employ somebody that
does know.
I've got a quantity surveyor now, and she's got a lot on there now, and I would love to just go in there and say, right, I'll take this job and price it, but see, that's not my job. I can't do the job.
I'm similar. Like I was saying that earlier. Like I'm massive on systems and processes, but I'm the one that always mucks them all up if I get involved. So it's being able to have the discipline to step away from it and allow the people that you've put in place to run the systems and the processes and let them do it. It seems to always be, we had the way that we started off with, which was backs to the wall, everything's in our head. Like, let's just make this work this week. No thinking about how it can be sustainable for a long period of time.
It's just standing back and letting the people that you've chose to do the job that needs done. That it's a job I'm not capable of doing. The job that yours QS does, and just letting them. It's quite difficult to stop.
Definitely. And is there any times, I'm sure there is. We've probably had a few phone calls and that, but is there any time where you've just been like, you just wanted to give it all up? And what would the kind of advice be? I guess that's probably what business owners watching or listening to this would want to almost be like, what is it that just keeps you going and says, no, I'll no give up? Because I've been there myself. And
so I went through a stage of always hunting for work. So I'm always trying to grow the company. I'm always looking for, I did a lot of website stuff and advertising, always chasing work. And then I changed a few things. We went more into sort of commercial, and we had some good jobs on. And all of a sudden, I went into the stage where, wait, now we've got a lot of work to get through this year, and it's trying to get the work done. And as well as getting the work done, you've got to make a profit doing the work. What sometimes is quite difficult. Okay, you get weather, all different things that can crop up. So it kind of changes, and I've had different problems. Like the problems kind of change as the company's changing, and some days it's quite difficult. But I suppose any job's quite difficult. It's just when you're doing the job we do, you're the sort of last port of call, aren't you? So you haven't really got anybody to go and. That's probably why we speak to each other about certain things, and there's other people that you speak to and I'll speak to that, because you've got the same understanding.
That's probably that's a massive bit of advice, and I think it's quite a common theme probably throughout the podcast, but it's actually picking up the phone to other people that's in the same kind of boat almost, and saying, like, sometimes even just like we've done it ourselves, like just speaking to each other, almost the problem's solved because you just vented it a wee bit. And 9 times out of 10, like, somebody's had the problem you've had, but 10 times worse, or been through it, like, and found the other side. So I think it's like, I think you mentioned maybe like mentors, and like if that guy who's working for you that's going to go out and start on his own, it's like, you'll know he needs that because he doesn't know really what he's getting himself into at this moment, because it's hard to foresee that. But once you get in, it can be a lonely place.
And it's quite easy to try and push somebody down the road that I went, or I think you should go, or whatever. But everybody's got their own their kind of ideas of what they want, and so I'll just I'll speak to this guy. I'll tell him, look, I'll give him a hand with whatever he's got a hand with, but then I'll just let him do what he's doing. And if he needs anything, he knows that. I pretty much do that with the apprentices as well. I never really push them very hard. The way I see it is that they've got to. There's no point in them being good or them being whatever, because we've been making them like that.
They've got to want it.
Aye, we'll give them all the opportunity and the tools, and put them with the right people, and try and put them on the right jobs to learn as much as they can in their really short apprenticeship. But they've got to want it, and if they do, they'll be like, we produce good apprentices, and it's it's them as much as us. It's a two-way thing.
Do you think like, so obviously, like, being on the roofs or out doing stonemasonry, it's quite similar with adverse weather conditions, heavy lifting, different things. Do you think the resilience that's built in us from learning that trade and being able to stay out in all weathers and just knowing that you just need to get it done, your back's against the wall, do you think that almost gives you like an advantage in business? Because sometimes, like, see the problems that we're facing now that we sometimes talk about, they're quite small compared to the one where it's like the weather's maybe like totally against you. If you didn't get the money paid in to the bank by the end of that week, you're maybe not paying the wages that week, or you're not getting paid that week, depending on what. Like, we've been through all of that. It's almost like these problems are small, but you sometimes think we've got a bit of a cheek to moan about it, and some of the things we probably, even me and you, pick the phone up to each other about, it's quite small problems in the grand scheme of things when you think back to that.
Well, I think people, when they believe some of they see when I think back, good things.
Tough.
But it's, I think you're probably right with that. I think it's, you just learn you need to get it done, don't you? Sometimes it's changed nowadays, isn't it? Getting it like the back. So when I was an apprentice, and I used to always hear old people saying this to me when I was younger. When I was a laddie, we did 5 jobs and worked 300 hours a week and everything. But when even you're only 31, so you're not that far away. But even when you look back to your apprentice, I heard you saying in one of your podcasts you're in the back of the van.
Aye.
Now, as soon as you said that, see, my assistant contracts manager, so I was at another company and he was there as a labourer, and we used to put all the stone in the back of the van and lay him in the back. It was a pickup, so I had to lie down so that nobody could see it. We drive down the road as fast as we could, so it was terrified. And I think back and I think, it's just another.
We've now got the opportunity to change all of that, though. That's the thing. Like, we've got an opportunity to just do that right.
And it's for the better. There's a lot of things for the better, but something like it. Maybe going off on a tangent here. One thing that, like, I see football clubs, right? Alex Ferguson, and the different managerial side of that's changing, and the modern managers compared to the old school ones of 10 years ago. And I kind of relate it to the building industry. You kind of like just shout at people, and like, there's a different way to try and get the best. It's a different
culture now. It is. It's giving them an environment where they feel safe and looked after, and everything's right. And
I find it's quite difficult. Like, I do. It's something you've got to keep trying it. And
I think what probably, and you might be similar, but one of my worries about it is that I worry that the like, even for my own kids, but probably for apprentices coming through and stuff, I worry, like, will they have enough resilience that they'll need? Because I know that all of my resilience came from the back of the van and, like, lying down in the back of pickups and that. Like, it's got to build you a bit of resilience, do you know?
Smoking, getting in you can't see out the window for the smoking. It's just different now, different world. But hopefully they'll just find the resilience through other stuff like that. There's a lot of money to be made, so. You know, once the penny drops, like, I find that with apprentices, some of them I find sometimes the first couple of years maybe kind of not 100% going to plan, and then when they suddenly realise they're halfway through and stuff, and a lot of them's noticing now there's quite good, the trades are making good money, then that's when they start to really, the penny drops and you get on with it.
So what's the maybe the future for you then? Can you see you doing more with the bike mechanics side of it again, or they get back on the lorries? Like, is there a sort of
I've got
plan for all of this to get McIntyre Masonry to a stage, and then
I've got a plan. Like, I want McIntyre Masonry to be about when I'm not. So like yet again, I look at other companies and I see how they've done it. There's an Edinburgh-based company, and I like their sort of setup and how they've got things working. And so my plan is, in the future, is to can probably step back a bit at some point. I've got quite a lot of work to do before it's ready. So we're like 11, 12 years in, I think. So probably another 10 years to get it the way I want it. And I've got a few plans.
That's fine. Nah, it was good, mate. Perfect. Thanks for coming on. Brilliant.